Have you ever considered what conjugates of complex numbers are? Well, in this video, I am here to show you what it really is. So stay tuned. Come back. So let's look at conjugates like this. What is, if we have two, let's say we have two here, what is the inverse of 2? Okay, the inverse of 2 is actually 1 over 2. Why? Because by default, this 2 here has a denominator of 1, right? Good. So what is the inverse of 2? It is 1 over 2. Same way, when we talk about conjugates, the conjugate of a complex number, how do we examine that? Well, the conjugate of a complex number, if you want to examine that, let me write a complex number out. If we have a complex number A, which is equals to, let's say, 2 plus j3, okay? So this is a complex number made up of a real part, the real part, and the imaginary part, So if we want to find a conjugate of this particular complex number, all you need to know that the conjugate of this particular complex number is going to be the same, have the same value. It's going to have the same value, but what's going to change is the sign. So when we talk about conjugate, it's actually the sign of the complex number that is changing. So the conjugate of A, the complex number A, let me use A prime to represent that, A prime. So we can use A prime to represent the conjugate. The conjugate is going to be what? 2 minus j3. Now, this is what conjugate is talking about. That is just a summary of what conjugate is about. So let's now transition when we have to multiply a complex number by its conjugate. How do we go about that? So I'm still going to use this complex number that I wrote out here. The complex number is A is equals to 2 plus what? J3. And we want to multiply it by its what? Conjugate. Another thing important you must know about conjugates of a multiplying conjugate of a complex number, like multiplying a complex number by its conjugate, is that once you do that, you're going to get a real value. No imaginary value will be attached. So we have this is a complex number, and the conjugate is A prime, which is what? 2 minus j3. So we want to multiply A times A1, okay? The complex number times its conjugate. So it's going to be 2 plus what? J3 multiplied by 2 minus what? J3. So this is interesting. Let's see where this takes us. So let's go forward. So remember, if you're multiplying two complex numbers together, you observe and you multiply in terms of expansion of when you're doing algebraic expression. So what I'm going to do is this 2 will multiply everything here, then positive j3 will also multiply everything here. So let's get started. So 2 times 2 here will give us what? 4. 2 times negative j3 will give us what? Negative j6. Positive j3 times 2 will give us what? Positive j6. Now, this part is interesting and very, very what? Delicate. So you must take your time to understand it. If you want to multiply two imaginary numbers together, first, the sign will multiply. The two signs beside them. So positive here times the negative here will give us what? Negative. Let me write it here. Then j times j. Remember that j is equals to square root of negative 1. So j times j means what? J squared, right? And if you have j squared, it's same thing as well. Square cancelling what? The square root here. And you're going to have negative 1 at the end. So j times j is going to give us what? Negative 1. So I'm going to multiply it to the negative that I got after multiplying positive times negative here. Okay, that being said, then the last thing you're going to consider is the value here. 3 times 3 will give us what? Positive 9, right? So it's going to give us what? 9, positive 9. So remember, right, this is supposed to be multiplication times 9. So what you're going to do after you've done this, remember the first thing I did is what? Multiply the positive and the negative. It gave me negative here, right? Multiply the j times j, it gave you negative j. Multiply 3 times 3, you're going to give me 9. After you've done that, then multiply all these 3 together. So negative times negative 1 is going to give us positive 1. Then positive 1 times what? 9 will give us what? positive 9. So that being said, after you've done this, you can now have positive what? 9. Now you see that negative j is here and positive j is here, so they can just cancel each other out. And once you do that, what you have remaining is 4 plus what? 9. And that is going to give us what? 13. So when you multiply a complex number by its conjugate, you are going to be left with what? Just a real number, okay? And that is it. Do you have any question? Please leave it in the comment section. Leave it in the comment section. And also remember to subscribe to this channel. Bye.